Welcome back. In this video, I'm going to introduce to you the subject of how to become a more conscious manifestor. A more conscious manifestor is a person that can observe his own thoughts, his own wordings, his own emotions, meaning sometimes we talk from the inside and we become more self-aware. We see ourselves from the outside. We can step outside in an argument and see more objectively the person's point of view and our own point of view. We can step out of ourselves and see sometimes what our ego wants and what we want. And when I say ego, I don't mean that part of us that thinks that is a know-it-all. The ego is something that is a part of a personality. We cannot exist without it, and we shouldn't judge it so much, but we need to understand it much more. The first thing the ego says is that it wants everything. It wants to be the greatest, it wants the new phone, it wants the new car, it wants an upgrade. It always wants, and it's a constant observing state of jealousy and what I don't have. Now, when we give him what he wants, he will enjoy it, maybe for a week, maybe 2 weeks, and after that, he will get used to it and he will want the next thing. So we're not actually progressing. We understand that we are in the phase of having in our reality. And when we are in the state of having, we want love, we want money, we want abundance, we want a new car, we want a new apartment, we want everything. And that's okay. But we are moving and shifting into a state that is called the state of being. And we are now somewhere between here and there. And in the state of being, you're pretty much satisfied with what you already have. You don't want much more. You start being more grateful and thankful for the little things in life. But because we are in the shifting phase, we want. And it's okay to want. Understand it. If you're a spiritual person and you are living in this less is more society, you should know that you are vibrating less is more into your existence. Meaning you're just saying, I'm satisfied with what I have all the time. And therefore the universe will not supply more things to you because you are limiting your belief. And in this section, we're going to talk about how I become more of a conscious manifestor. More of a conscious manifestor means I am more self-aware. Remember I told you, wake up in the morning every day and say, I know I'm going to have a beautiful day. This knowingness, how do I get to that? Do you know this example of sometimes girls, they have a bad hair day and then their whole day is bad because they had a bad hair day. It began with this. But on the contrary, they said, I have a beautiful hair today, so I'm going to have a beautiful day today. And actually the day becomes like that. I want you to try it. This is one of the exercises you should try. Wake up in the morning and understand, make a conscious decision. Don't tell yourself, I took this course because it's something to pass the time. I took this course to become a conscious manifestor of my existence. This was my motivation. You put intention on doing it, and now you need to understand that you should also exercise. And it's not very difficult. When you wake up and you're still like in the phase, put both of your feet on the ground and say, I know I'm going to have a beautiful day. And I want you to see how it changes everything on the inside. How you know it's going to be a beautiful day for yourself. You know. Don't say I want and don't say I should. Say I know. When I want and I should, I'm actually introducing doubt. I'm telling the universe, maybe, and maybe doesn't work for it. It needs certainty. It needs black or white. There is no shades of grays in this. There is just a belief. You believe who you are, and that is why you look in the mirror and you see yourself all the time. I believe that if people would believe that they don't need sleep at all, probably they wouldn't need sleep. And yes, what is your belief? Do you believe you can fly? No. Do you believe you're a conscious manifestor of your life? Partly, maybe you are. Do you believe that you deserve to be rich and happy? Do you believe that happiness comes only from money, or do you believe happiness comes from many other things? All these questions are questions you should ask yourself because your belief creates your reality. And when we understand much more, we become the observers of our belief system. And then we choose our words wisely. We're going to have a whole video about words, but think about it. How many times are we ridiculing ourselves, judging ourselves, victimizing ourselves, instead of understanding that this is creating a negative manifestation of our reality? So begin by taking short periods of stops during the day, freeze yourself, and ask yourself, how am I feeling right now? How am I breathing right now? What am I thinking right now? Am I happy where I am? When you see more and more that you are not in a state that you're actually happy, because happiness and tranquility is the one thing that is the highest vibration that brings the manifestation, ask yourself why and how you can change that. For example, if you're next to a person that you don't really enjoy being next to, why don't you just leave or take some space? Don't have to say anything, don't have to explain anything to it, but some people are like clouds. When they disappear, the sun comes out. And you already know who I'm talking about. It can be a relative, it can be a friend, it can be people in relationships that we are still holding on to them. And we're actually not going in the way of least resistance, which I will explain more. When we're becoming conscious manifestors, we're actually beginning it by visualizing how our day is going to be. We can do this first thing in the morning, we can do it the day before, we can take just a few minutes to see. Now visualize if, for example, you have a meeting, a date, it doesn't really matter. Imagine the best outcome for the meeting. How will you go out of that meeting saying, my God, I got everything I wanted? How would you go out of that date saying, oh my God, this has been an amazing experience for me? Imagine the best and then imagine a good result. And see what a good result will make you feel. Connect with the future self that has already went through this date or through this meeting and see how he feels with these two outcomes. Then you're actually believing that one of them will come. Probably you meet them somewhere in the middle, somewhere between the good and the best. Why? Because you have imagined it. You have actually created consciously a path in your future that will be that way. Before that, it was scattered. It was random. Okay? It wasn't solidified into a belief, into a thought, into an emotion. And that is why the universe could have brought you anything. But when you're actually putting the intention and setting it and seeing it that way, you're actually creating a new reality. Showing the future that this is one of the possibilities that you actually want by vibrating it out of yourself. So, we said the first thing is exercising in the morning. The second, exercising, meaning that I know I'm going to have a beautiful day. The second thing is becoming the observer of our thoughts. Where are we putting our thoughts? Is it in the negativity? If, for example, I want to lose weight, am I focusing on the fact that I am fat, or am I focusing on the fact that I'm healthy now, I'm eating better, I started exercising? Am I doing on the negative, or am I focusing on the positive? And we should always strive to focus on the positive. We have to become more optimistic, because when we become optimistic, the universe will serve our optimism, meaning it will give us more reasons to be optimistic, more happiness, as one would say, when we focus only on conscious co-creators and manifestors in this reality. If we really want to bring abundance, we need to understand that this is a system that needs to be repeated, meaning our mind and our belief is like a muscle. Sometimes, rarely, there's a 180-degree turn and we can actually change our belief in a second. It happens, but this is not true for most people, and it's not true for us in most circumstances. Meaning that like a muscle, we need to practice. We need to practice optimism, we need to practice visualization, we need to practice the right words that we choose and the right people that we are surrounded with, and there's a lot more of unlearning to do. When we become the observer of our belief, then suddenly we understand that this belief actually came, from our education. It came from our country. It came from the television. For example, in the States, many people, once they are heartbroken, when they get hurt, when they feel negative, they will drink alcohol. In other countries, some people will smoke weed, or in Arab countries, for example, they will smoke hash. But it has to do with the education of the television system that shows everyone that once somebody hurts you, then you go out with your friends and drink a beer or drink whiskey. But that's just an education, it's a habit. It's not necessarily who you are or what you are. And that's why, by the way, in the North American countries, there's a lot more alcoholism than there is anywhere else in the world, maybe except for Ireland. When we become aware of our habits and we start understanding where it came from, and we start choosing who we really are, and then we start emanating in our highest vibration, because we see that we are much happier. And then we are moving from the having into the being. We start understanding that this is what I should do. This job is something that I feel very enthusiastic about. I'm very excited about it. My old job is something that I would wake up in the morning and say to myself, well, okay, it's just a job. It's a way to get some money. And money is something that I'm afraid of, because what happens if I won't have any money? And once I'm afraid of it, I don't really respect it in that way. I don't feel that we are creating together. I start saving up and I get stuck. And I'm going to have a whole video or a whole section about just money and abundance, because I know that's something that is very interesting for most of us, because a lot of us are still stuck in that mind game of money, and understanding that we don't need to work in a job that we don't like anymore. Just think about it. In our wake up hours, which is more than a third of our life, most of us are doing things that are not really happy to do for people who we are not really happy to do it for, with colleagues that we are usually not very satisfied with. And we can do a lot more by ourselves or for ourselves and enjoy it much more. We all know, we all have this friend that started working less and started getting more. Now, do we understand that it is a belief that he's working less and enjoying more because he's doing more of what he wants to do? And we all have our friends or even ourselves that are stuck in relationships that are no longer serving us. It's a different vibration, and once we leave that, new opportunities happen. We started sleeping less, we eat less because we are more happy. We suddenly start dating other people. We see that it was the right choice. The intuition doesn't lie to us. And this again helps us become more conscious manifestors. So, in this video we talked about being the observer of our thoughts, understanding how much we need to be an observer of our thoughts and our emotions, and to be in that state of constantly moving outside of ourselves to see where we are, who we're with, are we really happy about it? Visualize. The second thing we talked about was visualization. First thing in the morning, the exercising and repeating of our affirmations or whatever it is that we want. And we start by telling it to ourselves, and after that we can begin telling it to others. And that actually creates it much more, because we're putting our ego in danger. We're saying this is going to happen, and maybe it's not going to happen. But so when we say it, we actually believe it even more, because our ego is in danger of being hurt. Saying some of our friends will tell us, but you said it's going to happen. Oh my God, yeah, I did. You know something? It didn't really happen in the end. So when we say it out loud, we're actually manifesting it much more. We can say it to ourselves in our mind, but then we have some doubts. When we say it out loud, we're actually cooperating with the universe by telling him, I do believe that this is going to happen. So thank you very much for listening. In the next lecture, we're going to try to understand much more about the law of attraction and vibration, because these are the building blocks and the basis of understanding manifestation and understanding the relationship between ourselves and reality.